So what we started out with is last time was discussing the Hebrew, which is translated as in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, or the skies and the land, as I think might be a more accurate translation. The next verse then continues on, Va-ha eretz heta. Heta means to be. Tohu wa-bohu. So, and the land, notice up in the upper right-hand corner you've got the little sheet, the little screen that pops up telling you these words. So, and the land. This is the verb, past form of the verb, perfect form of the verb rather, to be. So the land was Tohu wa-bohu. Now, these terms are translated in several different interesting ways. First of all, the land is without form and void. That's the ESV version. In Latin, it comes out inanus et vacua, which means basically it was worthless and empty. So worthless and empty. The Greek, however, says an interesting thing. It is aoratos kai akatas koiastos. Akatas koiastos means, as you can see up there, kind of worthless, that type of thing. But aoratos means something very interesting. It means unseen or invisible. Now, let's go back and look at the Hebrew, trying to understand what all of this means. The eretz was, the land was, tohu. Let's take a look at the meaning of this. We'll look it up in our dictionary, and it comes up in what's called halot, which is the Hebrew-Arabic lexicon of the Old Testament, and that is kind of the standard modern scholarly dictionary, or lexicon rather, of Hebrew and the Aramaic. So it's based on the Old Testament, but it incorporates all sorts of cognate words from other languages, as well as a lot of modern scholarly analysis. So tohu here is, they give the background here of what it means in ancient context. But when you get to the Hebrew meaning, it's a wilderness, a wasteland, or it's empty. And here, for example, he sustained him in the tohu. That's what the text is saying here, or rather, in the midbar, and then in the howling wilderness waste. That's the tohu, this wilderness waste. Okay, you can look at Isaiah. Here he said he created the heavens and he formed the earth, and then he did not create it a chaos. He formed it to be inhabited. He did not create it a tohu. That's an interesting text as well. Anyway, so a wasteland, you can see different versions of that here. A desert, an emptiness, or nothing. Now, nothing doesn't mean something that doesn't exist, but probably more something that is worthless or valueless. And then there's all sorts of different ways that term is expressed. So the basic meaning of tohu is a desert, empty, waste. That type of an idea. So if you go back to our text here, the eretz was, here they say formless, empty, or chaos is the translation. But it was a wasteland. It was, chaos might be a good idea, good translation of it, but it was a formless void, is of course how the King James puts it. Now bohu is a little bit different. If we go to the dictionary search for this one, you can see it's much shorter. The word's only used 3 times, and it means emptiness or waste. Here, for example, is the Genesis 1:2. That's one occurrence. Here is Isaiah 34:11, when it's talking about creation. The hawk and the hedgehog shall possess it, that is a city that's going to be destroyed, and he shall stretch the line of confusion over it, and the plummet of chaos. That's bohu here. And then in Jeremiah 4:23, the earth was waste and void. In other words, Jeremiah is saying the earth is returning to its pre creation state, waste and void. The land is waste and void, tohu wa-bohu, and there was no light in the heavens. So Jeremiah is saying it's gone back to the pre-creative state. So this is a technical term for a state of emptiness, voidness, wasteland that is unique to issues of creation. It's only used in relationship to texts describing creation or the devolution of the created order into chaos. So you could say perhaps that combining these together, the land was a chaotic wasteland or a formless void. Those types of ideas are what they're talking about here. Here they say worthless and empty in Latin. Now, the one thing to note that's interesting is that aoratos here means unseen, and notice they translate then tohu as unseen. Now that's a very interesting text in the Septuagint, because what you come up with is only a couple of cases where something is called unseen, and in Genesis it is the formless void is unseen. In Isaiah it means hidden. That's interesting. Unseen is something that's hidden. And then in Maccabees here you can see the term means invisible or an unseen blow, something that can't be seen. So the word is interesting because it can mean invisible and it can mean unseen. Now, of course, in English there's a distinction between unseen, which means something that you cannot be seen but is there, and invisible, which might mean something that is inherently unseeable. So the distinction between unseen, that's which we cannot see but is there, and unseeable, something which is inherently invisible, perhaps because it doesn't even exist. At any rate, that's kind of the distinction here with aoratos. But there's another important way to look at that, and that is its use in the New Testament. And we'll take a look at that in just a second. If we look, for example, at this passage in Colossians 1:15, he, Christ, is the image of the invisible God. Now here, God is aoratu, theo aoratu, which means the unseen God. It doesn't mean he is, well, the question is it unseen God or is it the unseeable God? That God is inherently unseeable. That's the big question. So unseen is a better translation because it is, it retains the ambiguity of the Greek, which can mean unseen or hidden, but it can also mean unseeable or invisible, something inherently unseeable. At any rate, the unseen God, the firstborn of all creation, that's Christ. For by him, that is Christ, were all things created, in heaven and earth. Now notice they're using the exact language from Genesis. The creation of heaven and earth, visible and aoratos. Now notice, that's aorata is the things that are unseen. Now that is using language direct out of the Septuagint. In other words, he is taking the Septuagint concept of the unseen things at creation and applying it here in his understanding of Christ's creation. So that's an important thing to note, is that the Greek here, aoratos, is related to the Christian conceptualization of creation of the unseen things. At any rate, what we've got here then, the fundamental question is the earth is there. It's a formless waste. It's formless chaos.